You're listening to the new WCEG Network, WCEGTalkRadio.com, and you can watch us live on Smart TV, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. WCEG Network. I'm William Bill Edwards, your show host for Wisdom Wednesdays. For the next hour, I'm pleased to have as my guest an old friend who's doing an outstanding job in the business world. Glad to see him again, and that is the president and CEO of Goodwill of North Georgia, Mr. Keith Parker. Keith, thank you very much for being with us.
Thrilled to be with you. We've been looking forward to this time together for quite a while, so I'm glad we're able to make it happen.
Absolutely. Keith, you and I have known each other a long time, but kind of tell the people who Keith Parker is and how you get the success where you are today.
Well, I had the great thrill, luck, good fortune, blessings of being born to two wonderful parents, Mr. and Mrs. George Parker from Petersburg, Virginia. And they raised myself and two other kids, teach us, hard work never comes easy. And nothing comes your way unless you're really willing to put in the work and the commitment to make it happen. And neither of my parents were very educated people. Neither one of them made a lot of money, but they made sure my brother, sister, and I always had everything we needed and learned what we needed to learn. And then along the way, did a lot of things that helped me move forward, both as a good person and as a leader in communities. The best luck I had was getting married with the lady who I've now been with for 26 years. And we have three great kids, the oldest of whom was born 23 years ago in the state of Washington. Then the second daughter was born 19 years ago in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then our youngest was born 10 years ago, 2 weeks before I moved to Atlanta. And he was born in San Antonio, Texas. So we had to move. We've been around the country a bit. Each kid born in a different place, but we've been around America, if you will. And during that time, been able to do some really important work. Most of my career has been in the public transit world, and I've had an opportunity to run transit authorities in Richmond, Virginia, just outside of Portland, Oregon, San Antonio, Charlotte. Then, of course, most people know me here from my time running the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, also known as MARTA. We did that for 5 years, and then more great fortune blessed me with the opportunity to run one of the great companies in America, Goodwill of North Georgia, where in the last 5 years, the thing we're most proud of, we've helped 37,000 Metro Atlanta families move out of poverty into working and middle-class lives. And so we're thrilled with that. And I have a feeling we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And Bill, I'm thrilled to also say that you and I met literally within 2 weeks of me moving to Atlanta about 10 years ago, and had a chance to come down and visit with you. And you introduced me to a lot of folks. And I think not more than 6 months has gone by when we haven't had interaction with each other ever since. So thrilled to be with you.
Well, I treated you well when you were with Marta.
You did. Now, I won't say you treated me easily. It wasn't easy, but you treated me well, treated me fair.
I've always wanted to ask you this question, and that is, how do you go from public transportation to Goodwill? I don't know, maybe it's the money, I don't know. But that seems to be just a different jump from public transportation to a business like Goodwill.
It is. So when I turned 50, I decided that I wanted to explore doing some other things. And so I started looking around, and I got some great offers. There was a think tank wanted me to run a major education think tank in the country. Venture capitalist people wanted me to run an outfit out in New York. Had tons of offers in the public transit world, but again, I didn't want to go directly back into that. And then I really started thinking, what is the most difficult, pernicious, just stubborn problem in Metro Atlanta? And it is the fact that if you're born poor here in Metro Atlanta, certain zip codes, if you're born into poverty, you have a 96% chance of being born in poverty, live your whole life in poverty, and die in poverty 20 years younger than people who are just 3 miles away, who are just born 3 miles away.
Sure.
And we have had this unfortunate distinction now for quite some time. And so when I started thinking, all right, where can I have the most impact? And nothing can move you in the short term, particularly, to get you out of poverty and get you into a middle class situation than somebody in that house having a good job. Somebody. And Goodwill, most people don't know, but Goodwill has helped more people find jobs than any other nonprofit in the state of Georgia the last 10 years. And we're winning that by far. You know, there's no close second or what have you. So when I started thinking, all right, well, I want to do something a little different, but I want to do something impactful. Being able to lead an organization like Goodwill became just, it felt like, and I know I'm in the right spot because if after I've been doing it for 6 months or to a year, even if they came to me and said, Keith, we can't pay you for the next couple of years. We need you to do this because you love it. I would, because it makes that much of a difference in so many different lives. So it's not a seamless way of career trajectory, but it made sense for me and where I was and where I think I could have the greatest impact.
Well, now that makes sense, because when I first heard that, I was like, he did what?
You weren't the only one.
That didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But the way you say it is really, really well. Now, we have a store on Keith on Old National Highway. And I was there for the grand opening of that store. And one thing that excited me, that you have that sort of career center along store. Is it still there, and how is it functioning?
Oh my gosh, yes, it's still there. It's doing fantastically well. So most people, almost all my presentations, I give a lot of presentations to like Rotary clubs and chambers of commerce and neighborhood associations, different groups, even city councils and so forth. And I always start off by saying, how many people in the room have either shopped at or donated to a Goodwill? And every time, every single person in the room raised their hands, every single time. And then I'll ask, now, how many of you know what we do with the profits? And then a lot fewer people will raise their hands, because most people don't know what we do is we take the profits from when you donate, and then somebody buys that. Let's say you donate a suit, someone buys that suit, and we take those dollars and put it in the workforce development, workforce training. So we now have 14 career centers all over North Georgia, and any person free of charge walk into any one of those career centers, and they can do anything from just ask for 30 minutes of help putting their resume together, or take an hour-long interview to how to improve your interview skills, and just be in there for an hour and then going about their business. Or they can be in there for 4 months in one of our career centers, learning how to do basic carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, a whole host of things. We got people getting their CDL so they can be ready to take on a job, driving over the road vehicles, welding classes, a whole host of other things. And we got these career centers, again, free of charge to folks. And one of the newer ones is the one on Old National. And in that facility, we teach people a variety of things so that they can do what we call the ABC approach of helping them find a job, then onto a better job, and then onto a career. And that Old National facility now is helping hundreds of people every year move from, some cases, unemployment into employment, some cases moving from a good job to a better job, in some cases moving from a better job to their dream career. Just depends on what their particular needs are. But that Old National facility is doing very, very well in producing lots of great job opportunities for folks. Over the last 5 years, probably in the range of 3,000 or 4,000 people have come out of that facility, now working and moving into the middle class. So yeah, doing quite well.
Well, Keith, that's amazing, because, when I was there and I saw the computers, and I didn't see anything that would lead me to believe that you would do like welding and things like that.
Yes.
Or do you do that on the site, or you have another site that a person must go to do it?
we have a mix of things at every site. We try to create what that particular geographic area needs. So we will scan the business owners and the companies and so forth in that area, and to see what they do. Like, for example, in that facility, I believe that's one of the places where we do the condo training, where condos are still going up like crazy all over Atlanta, and within about an 8-10 week period, we can have a person come in there again free of charge. And in fact, we pay them while they're in the training program, because we know that if we tell a person, hey, look, don't come get this training, but you won't make any money for two or 3 months. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they just simply can't afford that. So we pay them a stipend while they're while they're training with us.
Yeah.
And as I say, when they come out of it, they are now certified to do condo maintenance and so forth. So they literally could come in there. And we have hundreds of stories of folks coming to us. They may have been making $8 an hour at a place, and then they go through 8-10 weeks of training with us, and somebody's waiting on the other end with a $60,000 a year job waiting for them. And the same thing with welding. Same thing with, the welding thing with a lot of women. We have a whole series of job training for women, to get women into non-traditional employment, where again, ladies may have been making $7, $50, $8 an hour, and a variety of different things. And then we think all work has dignity. So we never, ever will say a job is a bad job. We'll never say that. But they may be making one amount of money, and in some cases in a job that just doesn't have any upward mobility in it. And then they can come through programs with us. For example, we got partnerships with GDOT. So these ladies will go through several weeks of training. Again, we're paying them while they're in the training class, come out, and they got a job working for GDOT, making $25 an hour, where they were just making $8 an hour 3 months ago. That's life changing. That's life changing. And with the ability to keep growing and going higher and higher and higher. And we stay with them. We don't view a person as a success unless they've been on that job for a full year. Because if they come work for only 3 months and then they get fired or they quit or whatever, we don't even consider that a success. We only consider a success is they stay there for at least one full year, or in that same job, or they got promoted to something even better. So we got those things going in places like Old National, in places like the new Metropolitan Center, where we just opened up a new career center. And again, all over North Georgia, and folks can walk in, any one of them, free of charge for that training.
Man, this is wonderful. We called this conversation today Beyond the Donations. And you're hitting it right on the head, because I never knew the condo training and especially the GDOT. A lot of people who are very active in communities, right? They would like to know things about, government things or how GDOT works, and we're going to have that on the show. But they would never think that they would go to Goodwill. The average person say Goodwill. The average person say Goodwill, they say, okay, now where do I donate? But
that's right.
They need to know these other things.
And there's even more. We pride ourselves on removing what we call the barriers to employment. We try to remove every single barrier, so that when a person calls us or shows up at one of our career centers, that there's nothing that's going to prevent them from being successful. Nothing. We're going to work with them on every single thing. So transportation is always a big deal. So many folks don't have consistent, adequate transportation to get them to and from a job, or even get them to the training for us. So we got a partnership with Lyft, partnership with Uber, that while they're in the training program, we'll pay for their transportation for them to get to and from the Goodwill Training Center. And then even for the first couple of weeks when they're on their new job, because until they get a paycheck, they may not have the money to pay for their transportation. So even that first 2, 3, 4 weeks, while they are new to the job and haven't received that first paycheck, we'll continue to pay for their transportation for them. We help them with their child care, map out all the different things that they need to do to take care of their child care. Folks who may have had some issues with chemical dependency in the past, we don't provide that, but we've got wraparound services of others who do, to help them get over the hump of those different types of things. So pretty much any barrier they're facing, we've heard about it and we work with it so we can help them overcome it. The only thing we don't do, and this is the only thing, and that is we don't try to motivate you to come through the door. That's the thing. You have to come. You got to come there with that attitude of I want a job, or I want a better job, or I want a career. That's the only thing we don't do is that part. Everything else, we'll work with you on. Everything else. People in criminal justice background, work with them on that. People who've been homeless, we'll work with you on that. People who've got some cognitive or mental disability, cognitive or physical disability, we work with you on that. We worry more about what you can do than what you can't do. And we haven't met anybody yet who can't be employed. There's something everybody can do.
Brother, you have educated me. I mean, it went beyond my wildest dreams because I just, once again, thought goodwill is doing goodwill. And what you're doing, but beyond all the donations, man, that's a heck of a thing. You have a question from a citizen, Dolores, going to ask you.
What are the guidelines or criteria for recipients or community to utilize your services? As part A. And part B is, do they have to make a specific income or be a certain age?
So it's interesting. That's an excellent question because lots of people think, sometimes they hear me talk, they'll say, this sounds too good to be true. I mean, no in the world, you mean to tell me I'm going to go in there and these people are going to pay me to get trained and then help me find a job? Doesn't sound right, but that's exactly what it is. The only criteria is what I just mentioned. Come in there with an attitude that you want to get a job, or you want to get a better job, or you want to get a career. Other than that, we take care of just about everything along with you or even for you. So there is no income cutoff. There is no certification requirements, none of those things. Now, one thing we'll tell folks, because we work with some folks who come out of the criminal justice system. If you had a job or you had a situation where you were violent with children, we're not going to try to get you a job in the daycare. We're going to be sensible. We're going to be upfront with you about what types of careers you can have. But many people who may have made some mistakes, there are employers out there who are so eager to get folks talent into them that, hey, they'll say, all right, we'll overlook that. You just make sure they're ready to come to work and we'll get them ready. I mean, we got new programs now where we're taking people with college education and getting them better positions. We got a program we call, I think it's now 16 weeks to 6 figures. So literally, you can go to some of our cybersecurity training and some of these other jobs in less than 5-6 months. You can have a job making over $100,000 a year. Again, where we're helping you go through all the training and all those things, and waiting for you are employers who are ready to grab you up and put you into these positions and careers.
Listen, man, I'm about to sign up for that 6-figure thing myself in a minute. But you said something, and it was notable that you kind of don't push people to come to you, all right? But how are people going to know? I mean, how are people going to know of all these wonderful things that you're doing if you don't have some mechanism to get the word out?
So that's an excellent question. In fact, you'll be seeing a lot about that soon. And when I say the one thing we want to try to do is motivate people to want a job, that's different than making people aware of our services. We got to do a better job of making more people aware of our services. So in the next few months, in fact, we are just finishing up signing a deal with a local marketing and public relations firm who's going to get the word out even more, really push and let people know that Goodwill has these services and that we will not turn you away if you're looking to improve your job situation. And so you'll begin to see that on billboards, on MARTA buses, in Hulu, as they now people don't use a traditional television to watch TV and that sort of thing, but on Hulu and Spotify and all these different ways of getting folks' attention about what's out there. And one of the reasons I'm on your show, to amplify this. So if people who are watching, folks in your bandwidth, if you will, let them know about what Goodwill is doing free of charge. come on out. We'll help you again. A job, better job, career, the ABC approach.
Man, that is just fantastic. Let me ask you this. When you considering all these things, when you decide, well, you know, I'm going to put a store somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
What criteria are you really looking for? What demographic or whatever you think that you need to know that I should say I'm going to put a store here?
See, back before I took over, and I had the great fortune, pleasure of following a gentleman who had run the Goodwill of North Georgia. That's our region. Our region is 45 counties, going as far as south as Griffin and going north to the 2 border states, you know, going north.
Mm-hmm.
And he helped grow Goodwill like crazy. But the mentality then was, let's put stores only in areas that have really good donation opportunities. So in other words, you're much more likely to see stores go up in Sandy Springs, Johns Creek, Chamblee, places like that, where you have a lot of middle income and above people who can make big donations. I changed that a bit. So 2 of our more recent stores was the Old National store and the Metropolitan Parkway store. Mm-hmm. Those 2 facilities do not have the demographics typically associated with Goodwill stores where people make huge donations. But I felt it was our responsibility and a bit of what we should be is creating these career centers in places where people who need them the most can have better access to. So that's why we're on Old National, because we know some areas around Old National need a bit more help. More citizens need a bit more help. Same thing with Metropolitan Parkway. Those would not have been places traditionally Goodwill would have located. But now that we are more inclusive and thinking about more of what we can do to impact communities, we want to make sure that the locations of these stores fit the needs of the community, not just where we can benefit from it, you know, on the Goodwill side of things. So you'll be seeing more of that. And in fact, our West End store, that's the oldest store in the whole Goodwill network. We just did a major rehab of that store, put in a ton of money into making it look like a brand new facility practically. It is fantastic. Looks incredible. And people are shopping more than they ever have before in that facility. So we're seeing great success by making commitments to areas where traditionally Goodwill really hadn't gone.
Is it important to you, and I want to ask the question, is it important to you to have a great ambiance in your store? And more so than that, how important is the customer service aspect of what you do?
Well, the customer service, to answer the second part first, if the customer service isn't good, people will find other places to go. We've made a concerted effort to really clean up the whole look of what our Goodwill stores are like. So if you went in 7-8 years ago versus today, things look quite different. And in particular, our newer stores and the stores that we rehab, you have hardwood floors, you got LED lighting, you have state-of-the-art cash register systems and so forth. You got a much better look. And then very, very importantly, our team members. We have really pushed with our team members, customer service. And they've responded. And so we feel really good about where we are, but no, still there's opportunity to do even better. So that's why we spend so much time in recruiting and onboarding people the right way, that they have to really understand that customer, we may only get to see him or her one time. And that first impression that we make is the most important impression we will ever make. So we want that person to have a great experience the first time they come in there, and then treat them like it's their first time every time they come in. And give them great customer service, great experience, so that not only do they become Goodwill shoppers and donors, they tell other people about it. Because word of mouth is our strongest form of communication. And as long as we continue to do that, we'll continue to enjoy what we're having now, like a record-breaking year. And in terms of our revenues and so forth, the amount of people, the amount of money we're putting into workforce development, record-breaking years for the last couple of years.
So you don't have those, I won't call them kiosks, that I see in the middle of the parking lot in grocery stores. And
no, that's not us.
Yeah, they basically turn into garbage cans and stuff like that.
Yes. No,
we
don't do anything like that.
Yeah. How do you prevent? You gotta have some of the fact that I want to take it to the Goodwill. They close. I'm just gonna sit it by the door. And I've seen that. I've seen that happen before.
Oh, when during our record-breaking months of donations, people will sometimes create their own donation site. You
Yeah.
know, and we try to work and get those things taken care of as fast as we possibly can. But I do warn people and tell them to be cautious that if you donate to Goodwill, 90% of what you donate, those dollars go back directly into workforce development, to pay our employees, and then into workforce development. Our overhead rate is amongst the best in the entire nonprofit world. And in other words, we're extremely efficient. We take your donation very seriously and take care of it so we can put more money into workforce development, again, than any other nonprofit Goodwill anywhere in the country. There's 158 Goodwills in the country. We do a better job of getting people employed than any of those other regions. Any of them. We're number one. Help more African Americans find jobs than any other nonprofit of our type anywhere in the country. So we want to make sure people have a great experience. So when they donate, that they know that you donate to Goodwill of North Georgia, there is a fantastic chance, more than a 50% chance, 50% of the people who walk into a Goodwill Career Center, we help find a job. 50%. So every two folks who walk in, we have a hit rate of 50%. Again, better than anybody else in the industry. We want people to know if you donate to us, those dollars are going to go into great programs to help people in your community do better with their lives. Help people in your community do better.
Okay, we got a question from.
I have 3 questions that have come in. The first one, so nonviolent convicted felons are eligible to receive training and services?
Not just nonviolent, even violent convicted felons and folks with a criminal justice background. And why I say this, and I picked on each of our past 3 mayors. I've said to every one of them at some point that people get frustrated. Elected officials get very frustrated. And I understand. Our elected officials get very frustrated. I've heard each one of them give speeches about how too many people have hundreds of convictions and yet they get let out and then they go back and commit another crime. And I can guarantee you, a guy who's had 400 convictions, if you let him out and put him in the exact same situation all over again, I can predict with almost 100% certainty he's going to commit another crime. So how do you break the cycle? You've got to give him a chance. You've got to, whether he's nonviolent or violent. So we know that the number one factor in a person not going back into the criminal justice system is getting a job, having that person get employed, because the gangs are always hiring. Gangs hire 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And if we don't give these folks an alternative when they come out of the criminal justice system, then you can, if they got to eat. And so if nobody else is just saying, hey, I'm just going to feed you for free, let's get them a chance to teach them how to feed themselves. So that's what the whole job thing is about. So yes, nonviolent, violent folks who spent 20 years in prison, we are still saying, if we want to break that cycle to avoid you going back and avoid you knocking somebody in my family over the head in committing a crime, what's the best way I can do that? Help you find a job, help you get some training, help you find a job, you take care of yourself, stay out of trouble. So yes, absolutely. We help people who have criminal backgrounds find opportunities.
So you helping the recidivism rate, that makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sure Sheriff Labat will.
And Bill, this is an interesting thing. What we have found, people who come out of the criminal justice system, who we can help find a good full-time job, their likelihood of staying on the job actually is greater than people who don't have a criminal background history, because they are, in many cases, more happy and committed to the company who took a chance on them than folks who can bounce from job to job to job. So yes, we've had great success in finding really strong workers and teammates to go out there and make these companies better. Everybody's got a blemish on their record of some type. Some just have bigger blemishes. And our goal is to help those folks find an opportunity.
But that's a good goal. Dolores, what you listen
The other one is, how can a person reach you? What is your website?
So they can go on Goodwill, actually the best way, GING, Goodwill Industries of North Georgia .org. You look that up, or just Google Goodwill of North Georgia, all the information pops up. That's all you need to do. And once you get on there, Bill, I haven't even mentioned, more and more people don't want to come into our career centers. They want to get their training virtually. They want to be able to look at their phone and get resume reviews or get some tips on how to interview better, or even have us help them with their job search. Now you can get a ton of the work done right there on your phone. You can get registered, you can do all those things. And even some of our classes, especially some of our cyber classes and those sorts of things, are right there online for you, also free of charge. And that you go to careerconnector.org, careerconnector.org, and also find those resources for you totally free of charge.
Okay, and the third question is, what are some of the organizations and businesses that you partner with?
We like to say that we've got 5,000 partnerships, 5,000 different groups that we work with, as big as Home Depot and Coca-Cola, and as small as literally a one-person shop who might be doing some type of food service work, or doing, like we got a lady who is she calls herself a chocolatier. And she's a one-person business, and she makes these fantastic chocolates and sweets and desserts and all those things, and everybody in between. So from a one-person shop to multinational corporations, that's who we work with. And we work with a lot of other nonprofits. Our focus has always been either we do it best or we partner with somebody who can do it better. So in some cases, for example, we work with Atlanta Technical College on a whole host of different things where we might be able to do some things a little bit better. They might be able to do some things a little better. Come together, we got two groups who are at their best. Mm-hmm. So, and I'll mention on the education front. So Atlanta Technical College is one of several community colleges, technical college groups that we work with all throughout North Georgia. And what we have found is when Goodwill partners with these technical colleges, there's some great ones out there. But the typical technical college graduation rate is between 15 and 25%. That's the graduation rate, 15, 25%. When Goodwill partners with them, that graduation rate jumps up to 86%. Mm-hmm. Because part of what we do is deal with life that happens. Mm-hmm. So quite often, unfortunately, a lot of these students drop out because they'll get a $400 or $500 bill that they weren't prepared for. A flat tire, a problem, the plumbing goes bad at home, something like that. And again, if you've got to make the decision between having a roof over your head or having a car to drive and staying in school, most people are going to drop the school part. We work with them to come up with strategies to overcome that barrier that was there, so they stay in school. And we help them, point them out to a lot of different other resources. So again, we try to get in there and help high school students, college students, senior citizens, people coming out of the military, all those types of folks deal with the barriers that are in front of them so they can be successful.
Keith, you mentioned earlier when you were talking about services, kind of glossed over, but I want to go back. You mentioned mental health.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Give me a little bit of what kind of mental health services, because, that's a big thing in communities now, especially in our school system.
So a few things. All right. First and foremost, we want to make sure we're committed to our own teammates at Goodwill. So all of our employees were eligible for EAP services, and these employee assistance programs, so that if you're having some mental health challenges, you're having some stress issues and so forth, you got somebody to call. I talk about it all the time. You knew Jeff Parker, the guy who replaced me at MARTA. I was with Jeff literally 1 week before he took his life. Mm-hmm. And he seemed like he was in great spirits. He and I have daughters who are the same age and so forth. So that thing hit me hard. So I talk about mental health with my teammates all the time. And we got tons of resources out there for them. And we recently did something that most employers don't do. And we extended all those mental health resources to our part-time employees as well. So we want anybody at Goodwill who's under a lot of stress, who's dealing with a lot of things, you know that they've got an outlet, a place that they can got resources that are available to them. Now, as far as people who have mental health challenges, again, we work with people who have cognitive disabilities that are so severe that most people will say he or she could never work. I'll give you an example of a young man who was born with some significant, he was born with Down syndrome and some other significant challenges. One of the most impactful moments for me since I've been working at Goodwill, he was in one of our rural areas, and coming up, his dad and his mother came up to me, and these are two hardworking folks, blue collar jobs, non-college educated people. And the dad literally starts telling me, and he's breaking down in tears. And this is a rough dude. I mean, this is the type of guy you don't expect to start crying in front of him. And he said, since his son was born, every person had been telling him what his son couldn't do. You can't do this, you can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. Well, he went through a significantly enhanced training program with us. And the job we found for him was with the local supermarket. And that young man has been on that job now, I think it's been 3-4 years. And he kicks butt in that store. The customers love him. He loves what he's doing. And for his parents who thought he would never be able to be employed, it's been a miracle. It's been a dream come true for them. And so we work with people who have all sorts of cognitive abilities. That's how we like to think about it. Because as long as you can do something, we're going to find a match for you in getting you a job that, for many of these parents, it's, I just want to get them out the house for a little bit. And then they want to get out the house because they want to go meet friends on a work site and so forth. And then every job has a level of dignity to it. And so that's how we approach it. We got a lady who went to Washington, D.C. representing us. She had and still works to this day. She has a severe form of an illness that causes her to have multiple seizures throughout the day. She also has some significant visual impairments. She now uses a wheelchair. But Bill, guess what she told us when we interviewed her recently? She spoke in front of our board. Mm-hmm. She said the biggest thing she had to overcome was feeling sorry for herself because there are other people dealing with even greater challenges than she does. Now, here's a lady in a wheelchair who has visual impairments, who has seizures every day, multiple times a day. And her attitude was, I can't be feeling sorry about myself because of the other people dealing with even more challenge. Man, if that doesn't make you wake up and say, I'm feeling sorry for myself, if it doesn't make you look in the mirror and say, all right, what am I whining about in my life? So folks of all walks of life, if you've got a family member, a neighbor, a friend who you think totally unemployable, talk to us. We think we can help.
How can Goodwill get involved with the local schools, the high schools, the middle schools, and on projects and things of that nature, Keith?
So we already are. And again, we probably need to do a better job of letting people know about it. We have a program called Youth Employment Services, and we're working with dozens of local high schools. And be glad to talk about more. But in some of these high schools, they may have a little bit of a edge to them, little history of some issues. But what we have found is that when we go in and we work directly with the students about, again, all the wraparound things that they need to be successful, graduation rate that may be at 78%, the folks who go through our program, our Youth Employment Services program, are graduating at 98, 99%. And 100% of the folks who go through the programs with us, we either find a job for them when they come out of high school or help them get into college. So the success rate, again, through the roof, because what we've been able to do is pinpoint those things that cause students to drop out of school, to underperform, and so forth. And then while we're providing that wraparound service, which quite often is a job, because if you're in a household where money is tight and that sort of thing, if you're adding to that family's overall income and resources, you can help relieve a lot of the pressure in there. But we want to make sure the student that they get jobs that are complementary to their education, not just going to get in the way of their education.
Well, truly, you have answered the question beyond the donations.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm gonna jump back over to the original store again, because I kind of like to know how it runs and how do you get merchandise to where you need to get it. I go over there, I got a truck full of stuff. Okay, we always pull up into the donation area. All right, walk me through. From the time I put my truck into the donation area, what happens until that particular product hits the floor?
So we try to make that as seamless as possible for you. And one of the good things about COVID was a horrible situation for us overall, this community and so forth. But one of the good things is that when we were faced with COVID, we knew we had to change the way we did things, especially on the donation side. So we now have a touchless donation system. We became the first Goodwill in the country to do this, where when you bring your stuff in, especially if you're driving an SUV or a vehicle that has a trunk, we don't want you to even get out of your car. All we want you to do is put that item in the back of your vehicle. And then most people now have a push button or something in their car that they can open up their trunk. And then we take care of everything. And then you take those items out, get them on one of our, they look sort of like a grocery cart, put those items on put the items on there, and then get those into the store. Put your receipt for your items either in the trunk or hand it to you. But typically we like to put it in the trunk again, so we never have to breathe the same air as you. You don't have to breathe the same air of us, so we're not getting each other sick. Because that was the thing. We wanted to have a touchless operation of when we, so that people felt safe after COVID, that they wouldn't get sick by interacting with a Goodwill person and vice versa. So since COVID, we now have this touchless operation. We get those items in. We're looking for a few different things. We want to make sure the item is in good enough shape to put on the floor, and make sure that it's free of any stains, debris, that it's an item good enough that it can be sold. Our job, our processors, as they're called, job then is to take care of that item as quickly as they possibly can, sort it with other things throughout, that we're getting in, because we're getting donations in constantly. Sort those things, make sure they're working. So if it's an electronic, for example, we won't put an electronic item out on the floor unless it works. So we test those things like old VHS, the tapes. Those have become big items. People love those things. Remote controls, we make sure all those things work before we would put them on the floor. So we got people actually who are skilled in that, testing those items. Typically within a day or two of an item showing up to us, it is on the floor. And then, and once it hits the floor, we want to make sure it's in the right spot at the right time. So a person like you, when you're coming in, can buy that item. Because what we know that if an item, once it sits for a couple of weeks, the chance of it ever selling goes down. So we want to make sure we get it out there and turn that item into a processed good for us, and then get it sold, turn that into workforce development. Now that's training for somebody else to get a job and onto a career.
What is the, I've had the privilege of walking through the door, and as a matter of fact, you were with me. And I saw the people processing the goods and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
To those that it can't be put on the floor or can't be sold.
Almost everything had, and this, the environmentalists love us for, we got different groups of people who love Goodwill for different reasons. Some shop with us because it's a value. You can, very rarely, not too many other places right now, you can take $20 and buy a whole outfit. It's rare you can do that. Or go buy some stemware. I'm a good wine drinker, but unfortunately I break a lot of wine glasses, and I will never go into Crate and Barrel and spend $100 for a set of wine glasses again, because I go into Goodwill and get them for $2 a piece or even less, because I know they're only still as good as me holding them properly, because I end up breaking them. But some people come to us for the value. Other people coming to us because of the environmental sustainability component, that we help divert literally millions of tons of things that otherwise would go into a landfill. And by shopping at Goodwill, those things are reprocessed. So those items that we don't sell, we still got agreements with people who take those items that we couldn't sell, they buy them from us, and they sell them all over the world. So an item that may not sell here in North Georgia could literally be in South Africa in a month being sold there. So our goal is to avoid at all costs items hitting the landfill and polluting the air. So we're going to turn whatever that item might be into a way that somebody, even if somebody in North Georgia can't enjoy it, there may be somebody in another place somewhere else on the planet who's enjoying that item for a very low cost. So almost everything gets used is our goal.
I'm gonna let you tell my audience, by asking this question, you'll tell the story. What's the most expensive item that's ever been donated to?
So we've had a few, and it's close. Right? We've had a few. As I mentioned to you, we've had folks donate Rolex watches that have sold $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. We had people donate these figurines, and if I look at them, and I remember my grandmother used to have these things in her house. They look like little odds and ends, but tiny little figurines.
Porcelain, some of them.
Yeah, and these things have sold $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for these figurines. Yes, on our e-commerce site, we have an e-commerce site. So if you go on our website, go with North Georgia website, you can link on to our e-commerce site and find things that you can buy right off online. Somebody donated a pair of original Michael Jordan sneakers that were over 20-something years old. And two people got in a bidding war on those sneakers. I think those things end up selling for $2,700 for a pair of sneakers. So all it takes is two people to know what the value of something is to drive that price up because they start bidding against each other. And so on. But here's what's most important about that. That pair of sneakers, that watch, all those things, that's what we use again to turn the workforce development money. That we take that and use it for that job training. So that pair of sneakers may literally help 30 people find jobs. Literally, they turn that one pair of sneakers could turn into 30 jobs for different folks all around North Georgia, help them turn their lives around. So if there's a lot of now outlets that are out there that people can donate their things to, some for money, some that, these different groups on television that you can go to or online, and you can, give your pair of jeans to those folks, and they might give you $10 back for it, or $100 even, depending on what it might be. But nothing has the impact on your community than what you would have by donating to Goodwill of North Georgia. Because quite frequently, we are, as this lady once told me, she had to take 3 deep breaths before she walked into one of our stores. So she drove around the block several times. Then she finally was able to park her car, walk up, had to take 3 deep breaths and walk in, because she felt like the world was looking at her and looking down on her. And she said, walked in and see these beautifully lit up career centers with bright colors, and people treated her from the second she walked in. She's like, she was the most important person in the world. So for that person, your donation is the difference between, quite often, unemployment, close to being homeless, and that person living the life they all want to live. So your donation goes much further with Goodwill of North Georgia than any other place you could possibly donate it to. We're more efficient with those dollars. We're more impactful. Bill, I didn't mention, I got to give you one other statistic, and one that I'm super proud of. When I got there 5 years ago, only 16% of the people who we helped find jobs were in jobs that weren't entry level. So most of them are minimum wage and entry level type jobs. Today, my literal direction to our team was, we got to get a whole lot better than that. Today, almost 80% of the folks who come through our doors and get a job, they're getting jobs in working class, middle income type positions. So dramatically helping families move out of poverty into working class, middle class types of opportunities.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you talked about the little lady, but I got to tell you, my audience today, that I have become a Goodwill shopper, and the jacket you see me with on today, I got that jacket from Goodwill. I surprised Dolores. She thought I was over at Brook Brothers or something, but I got the jacket from Goodwill. I bought two sport coats and a pair of pants, and I spent $19. And so I would tell people, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. It's a lot of great deals in, and your money that you give, just like Keith said, it goes to, you know, a good cause. And so, and I found it to be quite interesting to be a Goodwill. I mean, you have to look and see, go through all the items, and see, especially find someone that fits you. But I didn't even need any alterations, Mr. Parker. I just put it on, and I decided, well, since Keith Parker gonna be here today, I might as well wear my Goodwill clothes.
We appreciate it. You're looking good.
Yeah,
that's what's most important.
Is that because I bought the Goodwill jacket, or I'm just looking good? Anyway, I have to watch you.
We'll let Dolores decide.
I know I won't be getting no good look at that time. But Key, you're doing an outstanding job, man. I'm glad to know you and to have known you for over these years. I might think you did better at Goodwill than you did mine. I'm gonna think about that a minute though. Before I'm just messing with you. Did a good job you did a good job in both places while you was here with Marta, and now that you're at Goodwill. I'm glad today I understand why you went. You know, because I was one of those folks who was really like confused, you know. Mm-hmm. And what's he gonna do over there, and how's he gonna make any money at Goodwill? But I understand. So we really, really appreciate you. And all employees. How many employees do you all have?
We're the biggest. We're the biggest true Georgia-based nonprofit in the entire state. We got over 3,100 employees. There are groups like the American Cancer Society. They're just not Georgia. You know, they're all over the country. They're all over the country, and some of these other groups. But as far as Georgia, true Georgia-based, Georgia-centric nonprofits, we're the biggest. 3,100. We got 69 stores all over North Georgia. Another 50 facilities that you can donate things to in the 14 Career Center. So we're a big operation, bigger than Target now.
Lord, get my other jacket. I don't got to show Keith, you know. I'm GQ, buddy. Matter of fact, I told my friends where I got them from, and they were like so excited. I said, well, they want to take a Goodwill tour. And that is,
good.
They want to visit all the Goodwill stores. Now, here's my letter. See, this is style here, see.
Fantastic. Oh yeah, that looks like a little bit of linen in there.
Yeah. What are you talking about? This is really, Lord can tell you, you know how much I paid for this? $7.95.
So you literally got a jacket that probably originally cost $300, $400, $500.
Absolutely.
For what you pay for a Happy Meal these days at McDonald's. So not jackets, a bad deal.
Yeah, both jackets I probably paid like $14 for. And so the reason I didn't get more, I get more because I couldn't find no more to fit me. But it really was. The first time I bought some Dolores, so remember we were at your place when we first opened? And there was a suit in there for $7. You remember that, Dolores? And the only reason I didn't buy that $7 suit was because I couldn't get in. So, but we had a great time. And the store on National has been there for how long now?
About 3 years. I think we're about 3 years old now. Yeah. And again, doing well. We encourage people to what I mentioned a little bit earlier. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your family members, if they are looking for a way to improve their job situation, again, whether it's to get a better job, first job, whatever they might be faced with, come to us. If they've hit 1 million dead ends before, come to us. We think we can help. So let people know. And Bill, we can work specifically with some employers. There are lots of different employers out there who are having workforce challenges. You know, send them our way and we can see if we can help them out. But there's nothing that makes, again, families hold tighter than have somebody in that family with a good job. Somebody in that family has to have a good job for that family to succeed. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah. Well, Keith, it's been great. I want to thank you. We've been trying to pull this together for a minute, but I wanted to thank you for being here for me and one thing about the Wisdom Wednesdays, our goal is to educate people on what they have, who they have, and where it's at. And we're proud of Goodwill. You run a great store over there. And of course, you know, I got to go over there and see if I can get me a jacket. I'll go tomorrow. But it's been excellent. And once again, you're outstanding. And I really, really appreciate you. And anything I can do to help, especially you kind of give me some marching orders to let people know. And I started by having this conversation we begun. And so to let people know, because I have been blown away with some of the things beyond the donations that is done at Goodwill. So my friend, I thank you so much for being with us. Yeah, I know you're on vacation in somewhere. I ain't gonna tell people where you are, but I know you're on vacation, and tell your family I said, you know, hello and have a great vacation. You all deserve it. And let's do it again. Let's make sure that, you know, we maybe we'll have a report card on Goodwill.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll come by the store and talk to your managers or whoever they are and see how we can help you further.
Well, we really appreciate it. And Bill, you've been a great friend from, again, almost within 2 weeks of me arriving in Atlanta. You were there and started showing me around, introducing me to people. I remember you set up a nice round table for me to meet a whole different folks who would have taken me weeks to get to on my own. You set them up for me right away. So I really appreciate that. And you've just been a real stalwart in this community. So thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. That was because I didn't want to lose you. But well, thank you so much, Keith. We're the Speak Life into the Community. This is what we do here at WCEG. The topics and opinions that are not those of the show hosts and the guests of WCEG. We're going to thank you all for your support, your continued support in Wednesday, in motivating us on Wednesday Wisdoms. And once again, to Mr. Keith Parker, thank you so much. Enjoy yourself. And we look to work closely with you as a community and as a government. So thank you so much, sir.
We appreciate it.
All right.
Take care.
Okay.